Hello, what's up? I wanted to make this list of challenge runs you can do in Bloodborne, and I thought it would be really fun because there are lots of runs you can do and they're hard for different reasons. Like for instance, you've got a torch run and you've got a +0 run. But in a torch run, you're gonna have a lot of trouble on bosses you can backstab. But in a +0 run, you can backstab those bosses. So you gotta go through a lot of difficulties for each run, and I want to explain for each kind of run why it's difficult and what's difficult about it. And we're also going to be talking about some impossible runs. Or, yeah, impossible run is what you can't do the full run because it just takes way too long or it's just not possible due to RNG. So let's get started. I wanted to begin with easier runs and then slightly get more advanced. So this is like a BL4 run, this is a no roll run, a no sprint run, and yeah, you get the idea. So let's get started. I think So I'm gonna start with the hardest run in each tier, and then... So the first one is the hardest, then this is the second hardest, and the third one is the easiest, for instance. But yeah, let's get started. So I would say... the hardest introduction challenge run you can do is a BL4 threaded cane run. So obviously it's a really cancer weapon. You're not gonna have good backstab angles, and the weapon just sucks. It's really slow. And the funny thing is that a BL4 threaded cane run, it's actually some bosses can be harder than more restricted kills in later tiers, for instance. So let's say you're doing Orphan of Gods on BL4 threaded cane, and that could be pretty hard compared to some other fights I will mention later. But yeah, so let's put the BL4 threaded cane as the hardest one in the first tier. Let me find it because there are so many. BL4 threaded cane, there you go. So after BL4 threaded cane, you have the BL4 no buffs run. So the BL4 no buffs run, it's pretty difficult, because unlike a regular BL4 run, you can't cheese bosses, you can't get lucky. A lot of people do BL4 runs with Beasts of Pellets, and they just tank a lot. And they can kill bosses in under 2 minutes, or a minute even. Like, an example of this is Orphan of Gods. You can kill Orphan of Gods without him going to the second phase. And all of the difficulty, or most of the difficulty, comes from the second phase. So I'd say that a buffless BL4 run is the second hardest. Okay, it's here. And for the reasons I mentioned, why this is in the second place, BL4 no buffs is in the second place. That's why a regular BL4 run, it's the easiest, but you can still get lucky. But it's still a challenge. So eventually you're gonna get more advanced, and you're gonna do some slightly harder runs. And I like to start with the hardest run. That's more advanced, is a BL4 no sprint run. So BL4 no sprint run, it's the hardest because you're gonna have to deal with some adversity, like some hard strats like Maria and German. You have to react really quickly. You have to you need perfect positioning, all that kind of stuff, and you also have to deal with some RNG for the first time. Yeah, I'm sorry about this. This is so much stuff. I having a hard time finding it. Okay, there you go. So I'd say the second hardest one you can do is a BL4 +0 run with buffs, and assuming you're allowed to tank. So it's still a pretty hard run. You gotta deal with the boss's full moveset. But you have some Beasts of Pellets and you can still dodge everything. So I'd say this is the second hardest one. And after this one, I'd say you have a BL4 no roll run. So BL4 no roll run is also pretty difficult, but the fights are noticeably shorter than a BL4 plus 0 run with buffs. And it's difficult, but not that difficult. Like, you could grind out a boss in a couple of days, assuming you're new. And you possess at least a little bit of mechanical skill. The run that's easier than a BL4 no roll run is slightly easier than this one, is BL4 NG plus 6 run, where you can just roll. But you're not allowed to use overpowered items such as beasts of pellets. So this one still makes you use the boss's mechanics. You still gotta dodge a bunch of stuff and you can get one shot, so it's still a pretty solid run. And I'd say the easiest run in this category is the average minimal requirements run. So the average minimal requirements run, it can actually vary a bit depending on which weapon you're using. Like previously I was mentioning the BL4 threaded cane. The threaded cane really sucks. So some bosses are definitely gonna suck a lot, but you've also got some decent-ish weapons like the Church Pick, or some good weapons like the Holy Moonlight Sword, the Whalejigsaw, or Stake Driver. So I'd say the average minimum requirements run, it can be a little bit harder than Threaded Cane run, but it's gonna also be easier. So it's a bit mixed. So finally, we're now getting in a category that's a bit weird, but I want to include this because they're worth mentioning, and these runs require a unique skill set. And you need more knowledge. Like in a BL4 no roll run, for instance, it's really straightforward. You do this, you do that, you watch a video, you know what to do. But in this category, you have to know more stuff. So I'll start with BL4 NG plus 6 or NG plus 6 minimal requirements run. Where can I find it? BL4. So here, this I'd say. No, actually, I have to work the other way around. I'd say the hardest one in this category is a BL4 monocular view gun only run. BL4 monocular view gun only. So this run is pretty tough. So first of all, you're not gonna have much damage. Secondly, the fights are really annoying if you're in first person. Like Orphan of Gods, phase 2, you've got the lightning, he's gonna be jumping around. Phase 1 of Orphan of Gods, it's gonna suck. Like, the timings feel different if you're in first person, you have to dodge all that stuff. I'd say the second hardest run in this category is a BL4 Flame Spear run. So this one is also pretty tough. It's not as tough as a monocular view gun only run, but the BL4 Flame Spear run is pretty tough. Mainly because of the DLC. So you've got Orphan of Gods, you've got Maria, and you've got Lawrence. All those bosses are pretty tough. And you're gonna need health regeneration gems. Like, you're gonna run out of Quicksilver bullets, so you're gonna have to blood tap and wait for your HP to regenerate. But the boss that's the worst in this run is Lawrence. So Lawrence, I've actually done Lawrence, BL4 Flame Spray only, and the fight really sucks. The fight is an hour long. Why is the fight an hour long? Because you're waiting for your HP to regenerate the entire time. And on top of that, if you're using blood bullets, you have lower HP. You can get one shot. So this run definitely sucks. I'd say the run after this is a BL4 Monocular V run. So just like the BL4 Monocular... one sec. Just like, oh yeah, this looks a bit weird, but yeah, it's fine. So just like the BL4 Monocular View gun only run, it sucks to be in first person. It's not as hard, but it still sucks. Like Orphan of Gas, good luck doing backstabs on him. Lady Maria, you're gonna have to dodge the fireballs. I mean the charge attacks. You also have Lawrence, phase 3 really sucks. Like, he's got the delayed slam attack. You're gonna have to change your playstyle in such a way, you have to position yourself differently. And you need a really unique skill set to do it. So, I actually did the BL4 Monocular V run, or I didn't do the full run, but I did. But the first time I did a Monocular fight, it was on the Orphan of Gas. And it took me like 15 hours to do the Orphan of Gas fight. So this was about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was super tough. Just because I wasn't used to the first person. And finally, we have the easiest run in this category. Well, it's not easy, but I'd say it's a little bit easier compared to the other runs. So BL4 NG+6 minimal requirements run. So it's definitely harder than the average minimum requirements run. This is in base NG and this is New Game +6. You're gonna have to do the same, except in New Game +6. You can make very few mistakes, and it's gonna be harder to show consistency with different kinds of weapons. So I've actually done a bounty before, where you have to kill every DLC boss with minimal requirements on NG +6, and some weapons definitely sucked. You also have some weapons like the Cost Parasite, and yeah, they're weak. Alright, so finally, this is the tier where the average runner usually peaks, and they don't go much beyond this, so they just stay in this category for the most part. I'd say the hardest one in this is a BL4 Torch run. So BL4 Torch run, you might get surprised by this answer, but I value this run a lot more than other runs. And it's mainly because of the DLC. But some main game bosses are pretty difficult too. But let's start with the DLC. So, Ludwig and Phaelius aren't that bad, but then you've got Maria. And good luck doing Maria with a weapon that's really slow. You can't rally and you can't backstab. The fight changes an immense amount. Assuming you're not doing the cheese strategy, of course. And I don't think, maybe 2 people have done it, but only 1 person has done it as far as I know. And people just hate this one. People usually focus on no roll stuff, and they don't train their skills in fights where you have to roll. Or where you need, like, just like in a hard runs that require unique skill sets run, you need a unique skill set for a BL4 Torch run. But many people don't realize this. I'd say, after the BL4 Torch run, well, they're kind of on the same level. But I'd say a BL4 NG +6 no sprint run is about the same difficulty, maybe a little bit harder. It's a bit subjective. For me, it's not that difficult, but I'm really good at no sprint. But yeah, the no sprint one is really difficult. Just like this tier. BL4 no sprint in NG, and NG +6 is a big difference. So in NG6, you're gonna have to deal with some bosses a lot longer. So and besides that, besides having to deal with bosses a lot longer, you're also gonna deal with some RNG, and this RNG is stupid. sometimes you're dying for the wrong reasons, because yeah, that's just the way it works in those spins sometimes. But yeah, you've got Maria, which is obviously really hard. It will be twice as long compared to base NG. So NG6 is a lot harder. And Shadows is probably, or could be the hardest boss in that run. So Shadows base NG no spins, you can kill them within a minute or within 2 minutes, and it's not even difficult. You don't even have to deal with the second phase, you can lock it out. So NG plus 6 no spins, you can definitely lock it out too, but way, way, way less, and phase 1 is gonna be much longer. Like, a quick fight is like 5 minutes, no sprint, NG6, 4 to 5 minutes. Assuming you're being 100% efficient. So compare 4 minutes efficiency to 1 minute efficiency. It's huge. I'd say after the BL4 NG plus 6 no sprint run, the next hardest one is probably a BL4 plus 0 no buffs run. So this one is also really difficult. Mainly because your damage in plus 0, no buffs, just, it becomes fucked up. The DLC becomes really long. And also some main game bosses become really long, such as German and Moon Presence. And those bosses tend to have a lot of HP. The thing that sucks about the BL4 plus 0 run is that one of the bosses is Living Failures, and they can take 45 minutes or like an hour. It depends. Like it can take you 45 minutes of a flame sprayer and being efficient the entire time. The fight really sucks. The upside of a BL4 plus 0 run over a BL4 torch run is that you can do backstabs, and Lawrence is a lot easier. Like Lawrence, he's resistant to fire, but now you've got a legitimate weapon. The weapon still sucks, but it's better than a torch, you know? So I'd say the next one, this is also debatable, is the BL4 NG plus 6 monocular view run with buffs. So in this one you can use Beast of Pellets, you can ball paper, you can use whatever, you can use Bone Marrow Ash. It may sound easy, but trust me, it's not. So I've actually done a couple of bosses in this one. And trust me, if you can't get hit and you have to fight a boss in monocular view, it's just so bad. Lawrence with the best RTSR gems with Bone Marrow Ash still took me about 7 minutes and a lot of frustration. You have to develop some new kind of strats. It's a way different skill set than compared to a no roll run. And speaking of the max NG no roll run, that's I'd say that's the easiest kind of run you can do. Where is it? It's here, yeah. So this one, it's still really difficult. It's obviously easier than a no sprint run. And so you have way less RNG. Bosses are actually consistent, but you still gotta deal with the core mechanics. Like Maria, German, Orphan, Lawrence, all those bosses, or even Gascoigne. You need a certain amount of mechanical skill to do those bosses, so you also have to be consistent. So this is usually what most people do, the max NG no roll run, and it's a really good base to have. So you can also go a step beyond the peak of most runners. So this is where most people they don't go much further than this tier. So this tier, you've got people that are more passionate about the game. And I'll start with BL4 plus 0 no roll run. I'd say that's the hardest possible run you can do in this tier. So this one, it's messed up. It's not that bad in the mid game, for the early game, but it starts becoming pretty hard. Like, let's start with Shadows. Shadows plus 0 no roll is about the same length as NG6 no roll Shadows, so they're about the same. And you're now only in the mid game, so it's only gonna get worse from now. Then you've got Mikolash. Mikolash is also like 10 or 15 minutes. It's been a while I did that fight, so I don't really remember, but the fights are twice as long as Max Engine and Roll at this point. It's awful. Ludwig is also about 20 minutes. You've got Lawrence, that's also 15 or 20 minutes. And then you've got some annoying bosses like German. A moon presence. Like, you gotta have some next level consistency in this tier if you want to do BL4 plus 0 no roll. So this is a bit unusual, but I'd say that BL4 plus 0 no hit all bosses could be the second most difficult, or maybe it's the most difficult. It's really a preference. But this one, you essentially have to do everything you did in a BL4 plus 0 run, except you're using buffs. You still have to fight bosses for like 10 minutes straight. And it's no easy feat to do that in a full run. So I'd say this run is definitely deserving of the second place. Or maybe I placed it wrong. Maybe this had to be a little bit lower. Because I just saw I messed up my list. So after this one, you've got the Monocular View run again. The BL4 NG plus 6 Monocular View run again, but this time you're gonna have... Actually, never mind, I didn't mess up my list, it's fine. But now you're gonna have the BL4 NG plus 6 Monocular no buffs run. So this one, it's no buffs, I mean. This one is really bad. So Lawrence was 8 minutes with all the buffs, so it's gonna be 15 minutes now. It's gonna be... So I'm actually giving this one the benefit of the doubt. So the reason why the Monocular runs are also that difficult is because people aren't very experienced at doing Monocular View stuff. So I imagine if people play with the Monocular View a lot, they would generally also develop the Monocular skill. So it's pretty difficult, but not quite the hardest. The next thing you can do, well, this is not... It's some kind of run, but I imagine it's pretty difficult. So BL4 plus 0 challenges, let's talk about it. The challenge dungeons, they're starting off pretty easy, but then things start becoming a little bit harder in the lower Pitmero challenge, still doable. But then you've got the Defile challenge dungeon, you've got the Is challenge dungeon, you've got the lower Lorraine, you've got the Great Pitmero challenge, and it gets really bad from there. So let's assume you're using buffs or no buffs. Let's assume buffs in this case, right? So Amygdala's, how much HP does he have? The Fat Amygdala. He's got like 20k HP. And with buffs, you're not dealing that much damage, let alone no buffs. And you also gotta deal with some bosses that... Some bosses haven't been solved. Well, they have been solved, but not to the kind of degree main game bosses have been solved. So let's talk about Pitmerian Descendants. You know, the fucker with the 2 blades, and he's throwing boomerangs at you. You've also got the Headless Bloodletting Beast. I haven't seen anybody fight those bosses for a long amount of time without getting hit before. Or even the Yharnam Queen. Or Dark Beast Spell. For a very long amount of time. So I'd say Chalice Dungeons, it's worth. I'd say it deserves to be in this tier. So after the Chalice Dungeon stuff, I'd say you've got BL4 plus 0. No, I mean BL4 NG plus 6, no gems, no roll. This is also one of the most difficult runs. It's a really cool run. Like, these runs are a bit unusual. BL4 NG plus 6, no gems, no roll is a really good run you can do. It's at least twice as hard as a max NG no roll one, but except because you have low damage, you have to deal with really hard mechanics longer, like shadows, for example. Shadows, you can't get lucky anymore. Phase 2, you can get a bit lucky in a regular max engine or roll run. But in this one, you have to show so much consistency. And some bosses are also more difficult against, such as German and Maria. Gascoigne, it can also be 3 to 4 minutes long. So you have to be pretty consistent for this run, and you pretty much have to know every mechanic. You have to be familiar with every strat you can do. So it deserves to be in this place. Finally, I'd say, well, it's not the easy run, but the easiest run in this tier would be the BL4 Fist of Gratia run. So let's talk about this one. So do you notice that the BL4 Torch run and BL4 Fist of Gratia, they're kind of similar weapon, right? Left-handed weapon, slow, doesn't deal much damage. That's true, but the BL4 Fist of Gratia is even worse than the Torch on some bosses. So it's way slower to begin with. And it consumes so much stamina. So let's talk about like a BL4 Torch German versus BL4 Fist of Gratia German. So in a BL4 Torch run, I think the fight could be about 10 minutes long or 8 minutes long for German. And in the BL4 Fist of Gratia, it could be like 30 minutes long. I don't know the numbers out of the top of my head, but it sucks. And then you've got Orphan of Gods, dude. Orphan of Gods phase 2 with the Torch. It's pretty hard. With the Fist of Gratia, you have to deal with the worst part of the fight even longer, and you can't do many hits. With a Torch, you can do many hits. You can do like 2 or 3 attacks if you have the most efficient strats, but with the Fist of Gratia, you're gonna have way less attack windows. It's gonna suck. Fights that take very long are gonna take even longer. And yeah, that's the ending of this tier list. Let's go to the next tier list, and this tier list is where you start losing your mind. Like, you have to put there's a huge difference between this tier and this tier. Like, there's a difference in these tiers, right? But this one to this one, these two, there's a big difference between them. So I'd say the hardest run you can do that's possible for a human or a best player in a game is a BL4 Torch no hit run. Assuming you're doing all bosses, of course. So this one, first of all, a no hit run like this has never been done in any game before. So the main game definitely sucks. It's doable, but it's really hard. But we haven't even started talking about the DLC yet. You gotta fight Lawrence for 40 minutes straight. You gotta fight Orphan for 40 minutes straight. And you've got Lady Maria. I mentioned that Lady Maria was really difficult, but now you have to do it in a no-hit run. So I'd say this is one of the hardest ones you can do. It's I'd say it's possible, but it's really mentally taxing. Like, you'd have to pay someone a big amount of money if you want them to do that run. And after this one, you've got the BL4 phase only run. So this one is also insane. To this day, I believe this is the most insane or stupid run that has been done. So this one, I've done it myself. I spent like 2 or 3 years doing it. I've been grinding it on and off, but it's really mentally taxing. Like, it's not fun resetting 3 or 4 hours into a fight or whatever. In this one, you also have to create specific strats. Like, you've got specific strats for Rum nobody has done before, specific strats for Moon Presence, even specific strats for Ebriatas. This one, if you want to complete this kind of one, you have to be motivated. Very motivated. And yeah, fights are the longest fight is like 5 hours. I'd say the next one is BL4NG plus 6 Torch Run. So BL4NG plus 6 Torch Run, it's fucked up. So the BL4 Fist only run and the BL4NG plus 6 Torch Run, they're a bit similar. But in this one you can tank, in this one you can't tank. But they're pretty similar. But let's start about this one. So in this one you've got some really difficult bosses. Shit bosses become even worse. Logarius is 15 minutes in a regular BL4 Torch Run. And phase 1 of Logarius, so phase 2 is mind-numbing. You gotta deal with the stupid explosions, the swords in the air, like the projectiles that are following you. But now it's a 45-minute fight. And I think it deserves this place. Because it's just so bad. It's almost as bad as a BL4 Fist only run. And then you've got some other really difficult fights in this run. You've got Lady Maria, which is like 40 minutes. You've got Orphan, which is like 70 minutes. You've got Lawrence, which is 90 minutes. So it starts becoming pretty stupid. Like you have to fight for 70 minutes straight, and if you get hit a single time, you're fucked. So I'd say those Orphan and Lawrence, they're really long, but they're difficult for the wrong reasons. It's difficult because it's that long. If you want to talk about an actual really challenging boss in a BL4NG plus 6 Torch Run, you might have guessed it. It's Shadows of Yharnam, yeah. So Shadows of Yharnam. So the fight is about 30 minutes in total. Phase 1 you can do it in 10 minutes, in 15 minutes, and phase 2 is 10 minutes. And you gotta deal with all 3 of them at the same time. You can't get hit, your damage is gonna suck. You need like an insane amount of concentration if you want to do Shadows in that one. I'd say it's definitely possible. It's about the same difficulty as my NG plus 6 no spins, no jams shadow skill. The 12-minute no spin shadow skill. But yeah, I'd say Shadows is about equally as hard, but way more boring if you're doing a torch only compared to no sprint. So yeah, these 3 are the runs that they're barely possible. They're very mentally taxing. You're likely gonna lose your mind if you try these runs, and they're possible for sure. But it's not fun. So this could be the most fun part of the video. We're gonna talk about some difficult runs, or runs that are impossible for the wrong reasons. Whether the fight is just way too long, you can't get hit, or it's just not possible because of the RNG. So the hardest one, I'll give you some time to think. Which one do you think has the most RNG? Because we're gonna judge it based on RNG and then length. I'd say this one has the most RNG to it. It's not even possible. You can do some bosses. This is also assuming no buffs. Yeah, you can do a couple of bosses, I think. You can do Bloodstaff Beast, you can do Wishes of Hemwick, you can do Gascoigne. Who else can you do? You can do the One Reborn, I think, with the cheese strategy. What else can you do? Any DLC boss, maybe? I don't know. But yeah, this one, bosses are gonna take way too long. Like, you're gonna have to fight like Shadows for like 50 minutes straight, no sprints. Like, are you fucking kidding me? And so you get one shot. It's just not possible. Then you've got Gurman. How are you gonna do Gurman? Gurman is not even possible. Max NG no sprint. Are you telling me to do it for 50 minutes straight without getting a hit, no sprint? That's... I think it's literally impossible. Never gonna be done. And it's also funny because usually if a run is not possible, people do a couple of bosses. They don't do the full run, but they do a couple of bosses. But in this one, you can't even do many bosses. You probably can't even do 5 bosses in this one. So the next one is BL4 plus 0 no sprint. Well, it's debatable. Maybe BL4 Torch should be after, but this is second place for the same reasons. 50 minutes German no sprint, yeah, that's not possible. 25-minute no sprint German, not possible either. So, pretty straightforward. So after this one, you've got the BL4 NG plus 6, no gems or sprint one. Again, I'm not sure if this is the right placing, but I'm gonna put it here anyways. So this one, same reason as these two runs. So 50 minutes, no sprint, impossible. 25 minutes, no sprint, impossible. 50 minutes, no sprint, I think it's also impossible. Or maybe with some very specific strats you can do it, but it's just not viable. So notice the pattern, this is all just RNG. It's just too stupid. So after this one, you've got BL4 NG plus 6 plus 0 in a roll. So this one, it's actually more realistic. You can fight a boss of 40. You can fight a boss of 50 minutes in a roll without getting hit. Not every boss, or maybe you can do every boss, but it's just stupid. It's just difficult for the wrong reasons, and some bosses you can't even do, such as shadows. Theoretically, it could be possible, but it's just not viable. And after this one, you've got BL4 Torch no sprint. BL4 Torch no sprint, it's fucked up. You can't do Orphan of Gods for 70 minutes, no sprint. You can't do German that long. Like, BL4 Torch is already a pretty endurance run. You're not gonna do it no sprint, trust me. Then you've got lowest possible AR. So this one, it sucks, but it has got one boss. That's really bad. So you can do almost every boss. You can do every boss in this run besides one. Like, Orphan of Chaos is not too bad. It's just really long. Lawrence, not too bad. It's just long. But then you've got Moon Presence. Why is Moon Presence difficult? Well, Moon Presence gains the 1 HP attack in the second part of the fight. What happens if you get to 1 HP? You're gonna be at one-shot range. He's gonna keep doing that attack for like 10-15 hours. You're not gonna have any healing anymore. You're gonna be in one-hit range the entire time. It's just not viable. So you're gonna use a weapon that deals like 1 or 2 damage, and you can't get hit. Well, so you have to fight the boss for 20 hours straight, while taking minimal hits or no hits. It's just impossible. So the next one, it's pretty bad too. So the Fist of Gracia run is definitely very difficult, but it's even worse than NG plus 6. So you've got a couple of bosses that are really difficult, but they're doable. Such as Lawrence. So Vic Rave did Lawrence himself on NG plus 6. It took about 90 minutes. 80 or 90 minutes. So that's a really difficult boss, but the boss is consistent. But you can't do that on some bosses, like Shadows of Yharnam. It's a gang fight, you're not gonna do the gang fight for so long. And you've got some other janky bosses or annoying bosses, such as Rom. Fighting a Rom for that amount of time without getting hit, it's not good. And even in regular fights, like Oven of Gas also becomes really long. I think Oven of Gas could be like 2.5 to 3 hours in this run. Or Living Failures. Living Failures could also be 3 hours. And finally, so this one, it sucks, but it's the most realistic compared to all these other runs. The BL4 NG plus 6 no buffs run. So in this one, you've still got some good tools, unlike the Fist of Gracia run. In a plus 0 no buffs run, you've still got the Soul Cleaver. And the Soul Cleaver is good at backstabbing. Some bosses like Orphan or Maria, they're gonna be hard, but you can backstab them now. So that's a big improvement. Living Failures is still gonna suck. Maria, I've already mentioned her. But Shadows is gonna suck. And many other bosses too. But it's the most realistic out of this tier. But yeah, I think that concludes the video. I made this tier list because I enjoy ranking runs, and there are just so many different kinds of runs you can do in this game that require many different skill sets. It's beautiful. I really like runs that require unique skill sets, because nowadays people just do no roll stuff. No roll. If you do no roll, you don't develop other skills. Like, when you play the game, you have to keep it as realistic as possible. What is realistic? You playing the game using all mechanics at your disposal. So if you want to be good at a fight, you have to know no roll strats as well as other strats. Strats where you have to instantly dodge an attack, for instance. Or strats where you have to tank an attack in order to deal more DPS. And all those skills, you can use them to be good at specific challenges. They can be really practical, like a speedrun where you have to tank, for instance. You need certain kinds of skills. You also need skills you acquire by playing with other weapons. Or Fist of Gracia. You can learn strats where you stagger bosses. A torch run. You now have a slower weapon. And a no-hit one is also kind of interesting, because in a no-hit one you have to be consistent. So you always have to make the right decisions. And yeah, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.